Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Barcelona, Spain is where we're going to talk to Alicia Rius. And let me tell you where we're going with this story. Can you imagine? Think about this for a minute. Can you imagine starting major companies in all major cities and then not having a support group to help you do this? And on top of that, really not even knowing or having a blueprint on how to even do a startup company. But then on top of that, how do you reformat that beast mindset to say to yourself, I'm going to make this happen? And then on top of that, becoming a mother to add to your blueprint. And still, like I said, really nobody to help navigate this. This is definitely a beast mindset story that you want to listen to in full details. Let's welcome to the show, Alicia. What's up, baby girl?
Hey, thanks for having me.
You know, before we get started, Barcelona, Spain, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Well, I haven't had a very linear path. I was born in Girona, and then I started my creative background, my creative career in Barcelona, which then I continued in London and then in Amsterdam, working in advertising agencies. And then I founded an international business photography in San Francisco. And later on, I co-founded a startup in LA, and I became the COO. And after living many years abroad, I moved back to Barcelona, where I founded my coaching business.
Man, just this journey alone, just what you starting out this story is crazy. Like, you've been to some great, what I might call startup cities. How difficult was it for you? Because you mentioned that you really didn't have a support group or even a way to navigate what you was doing. How did you even, format the first project that you started?
I think I'm the kind of person that learns how to swim while she's been thrown into the water. And I guess that mindset comes from my father. I'm the fourth generation of entrepreneurs. And I've always been the kind of kid that will go to the edge and test it, although that will give me anxiety. But I really like to push myself. And that's been like this all my life. And I would say that I'm a go-getter. I'm somebody that has a lot of drive. So basically, when I wanted to start something, it all starts with just an idea. But once that is in my mind, it is really hard for me to just let go. So there will be a period of time that you are just marinating the idea and you start talking to people and kind of getting confirmation that, yeah, that sounds good. But if I see it clearly, I don't care what people might say, I would just go for it. And that was a very clear example when I moved to San Francisco. And I was at that time living in Amsterdam, and I moved to the States without a working visa. So that was very hard for me to find a work at an agency. So what was left for me was, I'm going to start something on my own because nobody's going to hire me. So I'll hire myself. And at that time, I've been already into the photography world as it was a hobby for me, but I won a couple of important awards, and that gave me the confidence to start something. And I said, I love animals. I love photography. I'm going to go to the animal photography business. So I found a niche in San Francisco and I built on that. And it just starts little by little. It is kind of building a puzzle without having the picture of the puzzle just yet. But it's a lot of trial error. And you keep going and refining. And at some moment, because you don't have the final picture, you don't have the final what's expected, it somehow frees you. And for me, that was so much fun. I mean, it also was stressful because you need to make money. Living in the United States is very expensive. But that's how I started, with an idea and little piece by piece following my intuition.
You mentioned you really didn't have a support, but at the same time, you came from tradition of entrepreneurs. What explain that a little bit because if you come from tradition where you have entrepreneurship, why wasn't they able to help you, as far as support? Could you clarify that a little bit?
I guess there is always the family support, the mental support of you having a FaceTime with your father or mom and say, hey, I'm having a hard time. And they will support you emotionally, saying, hey, you can do it. It's okay. We'll be fine. Don't worry. You can always go back home if you end up broke, before you end up in the street homeless, come back home. So you have that sort of support, but it's emotional support, which is very necessary. But they don't give you a map. And my father also learned it on the go, and he comes from a very different type of industry. And he also learned on, by trial error. So we don't have blueprints to follow. And for me also, I think it's part of fun. When I bought a camera, I never got the manual of instructions. I said, I'm not going to read it. I want to learn it on the go. That makes it more fun.
Let me go here. You're in beautiful Barcelona, and you have all of this European culture around you. How in the hell did San Francisco pop up on your radar?
Well, that was 2008 when I did a road trip in California for fun. And then I went to San Francisco. And I remember saying, one day I'll come and I'll live in this city. So 2010, I met my current husband. He was living in Amsterdam. And little by little, life takes different paths. And one day he got an offer to move to San Francisco. And I said, let's do it. Let's leave everything behind and let's go.
Wow. So you literally left everything behind and just went to San Francisco. But you was already here at one point, because you said that you came and you didn't have a work visa. Like, what was the shock for you to come over here and realize that you might want to stay, but you don't have the work visa? Could you clear that up for people who may not understand the difference between coming over here to visit versus coming over here to actually later decide you want to work and live?
Yes, it's very different. So he got the working visa because he comes also from advertising, but as a creative, and I was a project manager. So he got a working visa, but project management is not considered as something special. So I tag along with him with a different type of visa, which more is a visitor visa. And that doesn't allow you to work. So I had to wait and work through lawyers and get a creative visa that I had to pay for myself to become, be able to work in the United States. So it is not that simple. It takes time and money.
How long did it actually take?
Well, we did it pretty fast, less than a year to got my O1 visa, but it can take more. But we had to do something else before, which was kind of getting married. So I wouldn't, because one time we went travel to the South America, and when we were moving back, he could pass the border, and they hold me and say, like, you can go. Like, what do you mean? Like, my life is here in San Francisco. It's like, no, you can. Your visa, we were changing visas, so it was in a limbo. And they almost got me deported back to Barcelona. So I said, like, we have to get married, because then you change another type of visa, and then you are allowed to stay, like, you're kind of a pack, we're a duo, and they can separate you, more or less.
Wow,
and that's how I
so let me go back and clarify this for the listeners. You guys both came over and you wasn't even married, but you're getting ready to be either deported or detained by going back to another country. And all of a sudden, on a whim, you guys just say, hey, let's get married to make it official, just like that.
Yeah. I mean, I said, like, come on, we've been together for years. This is, we love each other. That's not the kind of the marriage ceremony that we want to have, but let's get it done so I'm not deported and I can start working here.
I'm not laughing at you, but
gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's a beast mindset. So he was all down for it. He said, okay, let's go get it done.
Well, it wasn't that easy. It took him like, what do you mean marriage? Like, seriously, it's paper. I mean, the marriage the word was kind of whoa. And I said, we don't, because he linked it to a big ceremony, lots of people, lots of money. Like, no. So we did a very small ceremony with me and him and 2 more guests. Well, and my parents came as a surprise, but that was it. We were six total. So
let's go.
And then he went back to work. He finished the ceremony. He went back to work. And I was there like, yeah.
So how does that change now your whole life structure? Because now you're in America, you come from, the entrepreneurship side of your family, but you're in a whole different country now. You're in America. Things is like totally different. How do you change your mindset to keep focused on what the end game is for you in a completely different country?
I had a lot of inspiration. I was listening to many podcasts at that time about people building businesses. And for me, that was a reference. And I have to say that the first months when I finished unpacking everything and I had nothing to do, no job, no family, my husband was working day and night and I was so alone. I didn't have a purpose, and that was giving me anxiety attacks. I felt super overwhelmed and lack of purpose. So I had to find the purpose first to have the right mindset. And once I had that, which was photography with animals, I also adopted a dog from a rescue shelter. That also gave me the first purpose, which was taking care of something besides myself. And that started building. And for me, it was about, hey, you always wanted this. I had before, like in college, I said to myself, you're going to leave Barcelona, you're going to go abroad, you're going to grow so much outside. And then one day you will be back with all that knowledge, and that will be your leverage to stand above average. So that kept me going about, I'm in a position that it's a unique opportunity. It's very hard, but also I'm the kind of person that I will allow myself to cry and feel the anxiety and the fear. But then the day after, it's like, okay, now it's a go mode. What do I need to do today that's going to get me closer to the goal of becoming this thing? And that's, you take one day at a time and then you build towards that.
What was the most difficult part of that journey? Because you're married. Let me go back a minute. Let me redo this question. You get married. I don't want to use the word out of desperation, but in a way it seems like out of desperation because you're getting ready to be deported and separated from the person that you have been with for over a year. And now you're trying to find purpose. How difficult was it for you to get that first opportunity once you did find your purpose?
The first opportunity, so I started building my business by gifting free photos to strangers in the street. So I could build a portfolio to put on my website.
Wow, deep.
And I would just go to streets in San Francisco, see people in coffee shops, say, hey, you have a beautiful dog. Will be okay if I take pictures in exchange of using them on my website? And people was very happy to help and exchange that. And they said yes. And I started building on that. And then when I moved to LA after 3 years, I make the switch and I said, okay, now I'm doing family and their pets. That's good business, but I need to scale that. So where is the good money? And that was in commercial photography. And I come from advertising and marketing. So then I pivoted and I went to start pitching agencies. And I would literally send cold emails. And I would ask my husband for introductions at his agency. And one day somebody find out that I was an animal photographer on Google because I was I was asking a lot of people to leave the reviews after working with me to build credibility. And a little business contact me. And a few years later, I started with that small business. And then I was working for Purina, Apple, American Express, and other big brands.
That is amazing how you kept that mindset throughout that whole entire journey. Roughly, how long did it take from the time that you got married? No, let's not go there. Let's go here. How long did this purpose take from the moment that you start envisioning it?
So from the day that I had the idea until, let's say, the day I won the very big client, 5 years.
And you know what's so funny? I usually tell people it usually takes 5 years.
Yes, it's 2 to build the business, and I've built 4 businesses. So that's pretty much the first 2 years. It's about building. So from idea to have something that's tangible beyond the website. And then after 2 years, it's when I started to somehow collecting little seeds. And these seeds are something. And from year 3 to 5, and when you start growing exponentially, if you put the work into it. I mean, it's not only work, it's a combination of work, luck, being, a lot of hustle. That's definitely a hustle.
Let's go back a little bit here. Let's talk about that 5-year journey. How much time was invested that you lost money? What were those fuck ups along the way that would have changed your trajectory during this ordeal? I think people love to hear the good part, but people don't understand 5 years wasn't a smooth transition, because a lot of times you might think that this is the way you need to go. Then all of a sudden you look back and go, technology changes, people change, locations change. You have to redirect. Tell me about some of those things that you had to do as well.
Well, the first thing, to go back to your question about the work, at that time I wasn't a mother yet. I only had a dog. And I was working an insane amount of hours that was so unhealthy that it put me into a hospital, because I could not really create boundaries. Before that, I was having a schedule. I would work for companies, have my salary. It was structured. But the moment that you don't have family, you don't have friends, and your husband is working many hours, so you're alone, I don't know, inside of an apartment, what is left for you is to work. And also you have the pressure that you become economically dependent on your partner. And I had my little savings, but that didn't take me very far. So you have to become a team. And I had the pressure of, I have to make money because I want to be an independent woman. So that was the first, very big hit, feeling dependent on somebody economically. That was very hard on me. Then is the part that you're so lonely that the only thing that gives you your sanity, it is work. But because you only have that turned it into insanity. And then I had to stop and reassess my entire approach, how I'm going to work. And I started to setting up a schedule, starting, stopping, lunch, because I was neglecting myself with that too. And trying to put myself out there to make more friends, which having a dog really helped me, because I would go to parks and talk to people. And that was the hardest part. And then once I built my business, and I was at that time in LA, I became a mother. And that was another big crash, because then I was very conflicted between wanting to be a mom, but also I don't have anybody that can run the business for me. So if I'm not doing the work, nobody's doing it, which means that it's falling apart. And that created me a massive internal conflict between wanting to be a mom, wanted to be the person that I used to be, doing what I was doing. So that took a toll. And took a toll. And then thank God, having a kid, going to parks, I could make some friends, and that helped me to root myself and feel better. As a summary.
You mentioned something I think people need to take in consideration here. A lot of key points that I think people might have overlooked here. You talked about your mental health was being jeopardized. And then it amplified when you had the kid. So let's go back for a minute. You also got married. What was was your husband's reaction to what you were going through? Because I heard several
Yeah.
times that you said he was always at work and always at work. I mean, when you're married and you having these emotional uh, symptoms, he should have at least seen something. How was your marriage doing during all this transition?
Well, it was also him who realized, well, it was he who made me see what was going on. Because one day he came back from, I think it was a dinner at the agency, and I think it was 2 or 3 in the morning. And he came back and he found me on Photoshop retouching photos for the website. And he said, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Like, "Well, I have to do this and that." And he said, that's not right. Why this? What's the urgency? Can it wait until the morning? And of course it could wait, but at that moment I was down in that rabbit hole of I have to do as much as I can. So it gets to the point that you lose the big picture. You are lost in the micro things that don't sum up anywhere. And then I realized all the pressure, he said, all this pressure you're putting on yourself, it is you putting it. Because I'm not asking you to do this. I mean, he's been the best friend and supportive husband I could ever ask for. And he said, "We are fine. We are a team. You are allowed to stop." And at that moment is when I start realizing, okay, it is not healthy for me to just be so lost in the little details to the point that it gets obsessive because I feel I have to when there is nobody telling me that I have to. You have to do the work, but there's work and work. And that type of work that I was being consumed by wasn't one that will take me further.
Why do you think now that you're looking back, and congratulations on creating such a successful businesses, because you've done this more than once. So let me go back a minute here. Why do you think there was a sense of urgency? Why was this behavior pattern so ingrained in you? Because I'm pretty sure you had a time to look back and what we might call smell the roses now.
It is something funny enough that I'm still trying to figure out. All my life, even when I was an adolescent, I would speak fast, eat fast, walk fast. And I remember going to therapy to kind of slow down because people said, "Hey, I can understand you when you're talking, you speak too fast." And also I could feel that I was always like that hamster in the hamster wheel, never stopping. So I wanted to kind of slow down. Last week, I finished another coaching training and we were studying what triggers people. And my trigger is rush. It's called like that. And it means that I'm always in a rush to the next thing. It's been very helpful for me because I'm a go-getter and I'm a person that once I have an idea, I won't stop until I get it. I make things happen. I never barely procrastinate. I also have in my blood being a project manager. So I have an idea and I know exactly what I need to do and how I, from big to small and what's next. And I'm a very good planner. But until today, I haven't found out why I have this sense of urgency, which magnified significantly once I become a mother because my time then was cut by half. Even before I had 10 hours a day to work, then I had once the baby was a little bit older, I would have like 5 hours a day to do proper work because you have to drop them to school, pick up them at 4. So it's 5 hours, not counting lunch. So that created me that sense of never is enough time. You have to seize every opportunity. Anything I do, the way I move, the way I plan my work, it's always about optimizing every single minute of my day to get things done, which is good and not good.
How has your daughter changed your whole outlook on how you move and look at life now, especially being an entrepreneur?
Well, one thing that I'm learning still, because I have this inner fight, a part that wants to be very present and stop, and another part that is like, we should be doing other things. But I want her to see me as a calm, rooted person. And also having that mindset of being a mom. I always wanted to be a mom. I'm a mom of 2 now, which I want them to see that mom is here, mom is present, and mom is not like a headless chicken running around. I want them to feel safe, and I want them also to feel that it's okay to stop and enjoy an activity for more than 10 minutes in a row.
Before
She
we wrap
forces
up,
me. Yeah.
what do you think the difference is between your dream, your purpose, excuse me, evolving in your origin versus United States? Do you think if you had stayed there, you would have had the same mindset had you stayed in Barcelona?
No, never.
Why do you say that?
Because one thing I learned since I was a kid, my family has always traveled a lot. And since I was very young, they sent me abroad or spend days somewhere else. It makes you face very difficult situations as a kid. I don't want to say bullied in school, but I was insulted for years and years and pushed aside. And that makes you can either make you or break you. And that made me, and being in different cities, different countries, working with multicultural people, that puts you in very difficult conversations and conflicts, and you feel lost. So it's either you getting out of that difficult moment, or nobody will do that for you. So that makes you a very resilient person. And that's why I think I am who I am, because I've lived many lives so far.
When you look back at, I can't even imagine somebody being picked on and bullied when you say Barcelona and Spain. You just, those things you live in the United States, those places are like travel destinations. You don't hear about things like you just said. I would never fathom that you had that type of life where you came from.
Yeah, but kids are kids everywhere in the world, and kids are cruel. So I was picked up for many years. But at the same time, yeah, I survived that. And now it's very hard for something to break me or depress me, because one thing I know is that I'm very resilient and I have a lot of drive. So it's hard for anything to stop me. And I like that.
What do you think is when you look at everything that you went through, keeping that beast mindset, what do you think was the toughest obstacle for you?
The hardest?
Mm-hmm. When you look at the big picture, the different places that you travel, the sudden marriage, the trying to find my purpose, all of a sudden you have a child, everything is reconstructive. When you sit back and really analyze all of these things, what was the most difficult part for you that has elevated your game today?
Yeah, the identity crisis that I went through every time I changed careers or I moved to another place. Having to find out who I was again. Because every experience, every time that you give up on something that's crucial in your life, either your family or your job or your sense of freedom, that makes you question, okay, who are you now in this place? So that was very hard, because it happens to me a few times already. And you have to reconcile who you were with what you have now, with what you want to be. And that takes time. And during that transition, it's very hard to feel comfortable. It makes you question many things. And mental health, it's a thing. So you feel anxiety, you feel lost, sad. But once you can harness that, the opportunities are endless and are amazing.
Mm-mm. So, before we wrap up, how can the viewers, and thank you so much for taking time out to share such a beautiful story of resilience and definitely that beast mindset. I encourage everybody to, to follow and listen to your story. So, how can the viewers reach out to you and tell a little bit about what you're doing currently?
So let me say this first, that after all these transitions and being a co-founder of a startup, that inspired me to become a leadership coach. And now I help founders and new managers during that shift, during those transitions. So if you want to talk, I offer free discovery calls, and they can find me at hiveteamcoaching.com. Also, they can book a free call with me with calendly.com/Alicia Rius Discovery. And more importantly, I wrote a book that talks about these type of transitions and identity crisis, and it's called Lead with Clarity. They can find more in my website, hiveteamcoaching.com/.
You know what? Make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, and follow. Once again, thank you so much for bringing that knowledge and allowing people to know that even when it seems dark outside, you can find some light. Just never give up. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said so many times, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of Andre the Beast Creighton Show.